If I don't share this information with you, I feel like I am setting you up to fail, or I'm setting you up to have unrealistic expectations. This is completely separate from whether or not you like Trump. That's not what is at issue here. We're talking about polling and electability with the independents. I know. You're like, not those damn independents. I know, right? I know. They're, you guys, they're like the weird house guests that you don't know how to deal with. You know what I'm saying? They're the weird people where it's like, I'm going to invite you, but I don't know where to set you because nobody knows how to deal with you. That's like that. I get it. And you're trying to strategize and you're trying to figure things out. But I got to tell you, I'm just looking at the polling. I'm warning people, we saw this come up in 2018, and it really hit in 2020. One of the problems that the Trump campaign has is they don't know how to run a general election. Now, wait, hear me out. I know, because they won 2016, and you're saying, Dana, but the reason being is because they were running, it was like a mulligan almost. They were running against the worst Democrat you could have ever run, ever. Democrats who were voting for Trump, it was a hate vote against Hillary. That is real. I will never forget looking at the data that was coming in. I was at Fox that night. I was up in New York City. I was sitting there with Mike Huckabee and Brett Baer. And the green room was packed. We were all looking at the exit polling data. And I'm trying to remember what state it was. It was like something like a 31% approval. It was so bad. People hated her. These were Democrats that hated her. They ran the worst candidate you could have ever run. So it made it easier for him. And I think it would have been like that for any politician. Also, voters had this burst of, we're not going to take this BS anymore, energy. And so both of those things coincided. And in 2018, the midterm election was a little rockier. And then because Trump took the blue, he burst through the blue wall in 2016. And those are the states, Northeast states, that have always reliably voted Democrat. But then in 2020, it was lost again. And the problem with 2020 is that they ran a primary campaign and a general, meaning you have to finesse your messaging and your electioneering and the way that you're presenting policy. You don't water policy down. You make the message more, you change the message and finesse it to include independents. Does that make sense? So they don't feel as though you're only campaigning to your base. And unfortunately, that is the thing that did come into play in 2020. And some of the independents, they were tired of the drama. They were tired of all this. I say this because I feel like he's not learning this. You cannot run a primary and a general. Now, when I look at, there are 3 new polls out. One of them just came out. And it shows, there's one from AJC, and in Georgia, it shows DeSantis. It measures up DeSantis against Biden and Trump against Biden. Biden's 43-42 over Trump. DeSantis is 46-41 over Biden. And this goes through a couple of other polls, some national surveys about independence. And the reason I bring this up is because you have to, when you look at who is actually competitive against Biden right now, and we're still pretty far out from the election, so anything can happen. But right now, Trump I think that's why they want him to run, because he is super competitive with Biden. Biden's less so with DeSantis. And and him lurching left. There's a difference between being moderate and then kind of going left with like attacks and stuff. Hurts him more with those independents. So I see him making mistakes. These are like rookie mistakes. That's why I'm really heavily critical of the people that he's got advising him, because they're making mistakes that are going to cost him a campaign. And I bring this up because the media does not know what to do. They see this stuff. They want Trump because when you look at voters, and there have been 2 surveys to this, and they've been of registered voters, both of them. So that is fairly reliable. One of them was, I think it was like +2 Democrats, which isn't that much of a, honestly, oversampling. If it was like +4 or 5, that'd be different. But ultimately what they both showed, and I've sent these out to you in your email prep newsletters, but what they showed is that when you're looking at voters having a choice, if they're going to do another Biden or Trump race, they're going to go with Biden. And you're going to see a replay of 2020, the results. So that's just the way everything stands right now. Now we're a year or so out. So there's time. I mean, a lot of things can happen. But one of the reasons that you have to look at this information is because if you actually are wanting to win something, you need to look at where the weak spots are and do something to course correct. Otherwise, you're going to end up with the same results. Now, the media sees all this, and I think that's why they are focusing more ire right now on DeSantis than Trump. Because they want to protect the individual that right now, by poll measure, is more competitive with Biden. And so they don't know what to do. They have 2 people here, and they have to be careful in attacking one more so than the other, because then they're going to set one up to look anti-media. I mean, no matter what they do, they're in a catch-22. If this was the point all along, it's the most Machiavellian and brilliant thing I've ever seen, but I don't think it is. Now, Trump said that he is thinking of sitting out some of the debates. If there's any primary debates, he said he's going to sit them out. This is also bad for him. And this was one of the headlines that came in last night. One of the reasons that this is also bad for him is if he chooses to start sitting out these debates, that's not a power move. It'll look like, number one, that he's resistant for a reason. Maybe is he worried about, this is a guy who loves debating people. It looks out of character. But number 2, here's where the tactical error is. If he sits out the debates, say that DeSantis announces and say he chooses to run and he's up on stage with, the Nikki Haley's and all of that, they're all going to gang up on him. And he will immediately look like the anti-establishment candidate by default. Trump will have difficulty in countering that if he then decides, okay, well, now I'll get in and I'll take it head on in a debate. That's going to look troublesome. And then he'll risk setting up DeSantis at a debate looking as though, which I think, for crying out loud, DeSantis founded the House Freedom Caucus. That's literally the Tea Party caucus. I think it's ridiculous when people say he's a rhino or he's establishment. It's just dumb. I'm sorry, but it is. It's just dumb. It's like saying Thomas Massey is establishment. Come on. But he makes him look like he allows him to steal that self-proclaimed mantle for himself. It's bad tactically. That's why I'm like, who's advising him? It is so weird to see people make bad moves like this at this level.